Welcome to the Outer Realm, everybody. Thursday night edition. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are broadcasting live here via the International Public Radio on the New Orleans, or should I say the United Public Radio Network in New Orleans, 107.7 and 105.3 FM. This evening's segment is partially sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee. So thank you, Folgers. You know we love you big time. Tonight, we welcome back alien hunter Derrel Sims to the show, and he will be discussing his continued research on alien abductions and his thoughts on the U.S. military's upcoming UFO disclosure. Lots of goodies coming up with Derrel. So, of course, as usual, we are here on StreamYard. We are broadcasting to 8 different platforms. We are on Twitch. We are on, I believe, I can't even keep up, Twitter. We are on 2 or 3. I think we're on International Public Radio United or UFO Public Radio, and I can't remember the other one. So
I think we should have signs.
I have to have a sticky note on my forehead. And of course, any of the network's Facebook pages. If you want to interact directly, please come on over to UFO Paranormal YouTube page, subscribe, and you'll be able to interact directly. Otherwise, we will see all of your comments and questions here right on the soundboard. So we just can't, we can't address them the same. Yep. So there we go. He'll settle on in, and Derrel's always a lot of fun, and he's always super informative.
He tells a great story.
That's a great story. He's got a lot of good stories.
He does. He tells it so well. It just gets you. He just sucks you right in when he's.
I like his perspective and his oomph, his gusto. Yes. So just going after him. I wait up all night for him. I like that. So, yes.
He's great. He's great.
Anyway, we're just going to wait on Derrel to pop on in, and hopefully he's okay. And he's got
Speaking
everything.
of Mercury retrograde, there he is.
There he is. Yay!
He made it.
He did it. How was that? Did you find it fairly easy?
Oh, yes. Yes, very. I was on for a while, but listening to all the gossip about me, deciding whether I want to come on or not.
I know.
Awesome.
Yes, we get the part about the gusto, and I wait up.
We love you.
That sold me right off. Right off.
Oh, we know exactly. It'd be the guy sitting in the chair going, "Yeah, all right, I'm here." So, how are you?
It's fine. Just elated.
Oh no, you're cutting out.
I'm cutting out.
You are.
Oh, that's terrible.
It is. The aliens are intervening.
Yes.
Not a Mercury retrograde. Thank you.
Oh, God Almighty!
I've been in retrograde for a long time.
Oh my gosh, my whole life.
That's not good. Especially dealing with these guys, and they can go back and forth in time allegedly, and they keep you in retrograde if you're having a hard time. So,
oh my gosh,
you are doing well. You guys are open again, and life is good in Texas.
Life is great. Everything's fine. Nobody's wearing a mask. Everybody's happy, and there's no disease. So everybody's excited.
Yeah,
there's nothing at all in Texas. Wow,
nothing.
That's nice. We're not so lucky. We're completely locked down. Like, come on! But yeah, that's us. We're still in plague jail, as I call it. So
yeah, right.
Well, the problem is our cities. Some of our cities are so highly populated and living on top of each other, and and now I don't want to go into it because YouTube will rip us if I give any stats. But anyways, YouTube will just rip us right off the net if I give any stats. But they did find the Indian variant in a city nearby.
Yes,
and quite a lot of it. If it's real.
I know. I know. And we'll leave that right there. We'll leave that right there. So, okay. So, Linda, I am in Ontario, and the entire province is shut down. Hey, Zach.
Hi, Zach.
So, what have you been up to during all of this? I imagine, you couldn't just go around and business as usual. So, how's it been for you with your work?
Well, I've still been doing investigations left and right.
Right.
And so we've just been doing fine. I'm working on some media stuff right now that I can't go into, but it's very, very positive, very uplifting. And I've just been doing a lot of stuff regardless of the virus. We've just been mobiling.
That's what I like. He's a rebel.
Pretty much.
Screw you, virus. I like it. I know.
None such in Canada.
I know. So you had some really interesting cases the last time you were on. And are you finding you had a young lady who had stayed with you who was having issues, and the way it was left was that you were still investigating this. Whatever came of that? Do you remember that story where she started getting really scared and worried, and you came in, and sure enough,
I do. There. And the story is to back it up a little bit for your audience, perhaps.
Thank you.
She fled Brazil to get away from the alien. She came here. She thought if she moved here, there would be no more problems. Big surprise. They have a big network. And they knew exactly where she was. It took them a little while to figure it out, but when they did, they got here. Anyway, she was very nervous and said she was shaking and said, I said, what is the problem? And she was incoherent, crying and so on. And she said, they came last night. And I said, okay. And she was very upset. And I said, well, they're gone now, and that didn't work. And so she says, no, in my case, it's much different to a lot of people. They come in threes. They'll come at 3 o'clock in the morning on the third month of the third day. And I said, okay. And she said, last night was number one. I said, well, that's good news for me. I'm the alien hunter. What do you think I do? And she says, but they'll come again. I said, when they come, I'll be waiting for them.
I love that.
I love that line.
I know. It's like a Clint Eastwood sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
make my day.
That's my uncle. I'm just kidding. I made that up. Some distant relative, I'm sure.
I like it.
Anyway, I was waiting up. They come at 3 o'clock in the morning for her. So I was up to about 2, and then I decided, this is really important on my part to do something constructive here. And I thought, if they're coming 3 times, I shouldn't waste the opportunity. I should do something appropriate here. So I thought, well, let's do something spiritual rather than, going there, tearing the place up. And so I prayed about it for about an hour. And I got this incredible peace that passes all understanding that it's okay. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be taken care of. Go to bed. Like, okay. So I did. Next morning, she gets up crying incoherently. And my wife and I were like, oh, okay. She said, you said you were going to be up. And I said, I did say that. I did. And I didn't do that. I'm guilty as charged. And she said, well, I'm not crying because I'm upset because you were there. I'm crying because it was so wonderful. I said, okay, what was wonderful? And she said, the alien came through the wall again, just like they did before. And I picked up a piece of your firewood on your fireplace and scared him. He got away from me, just afraid I was going to hit him with it. Wow. And she said something so horrific I have never even imagined in my life something could exist like that. It came through the wall and protected him.
Wow.
That's scary.
And she said, I was shaking so hard I dropped the firewood and was just incoherent, shaking. I said, and what happened? She said, she started crying. She said, the most wonderful thing in the world ever happened. I said, she said, at that moment, an angel came through the wall.
Wow.
And she said that alien and that horrific being, whatever it was, that was protecting him, left as fast as they possibly could. They couldn't stand in the presence of this. And I said, well, what was Angel like? And she's talked about it and everything. She said she's crying and crying. She said, it's so wonderful. And said, why did he come? And I said, actually, I had a little extra help on that. And so anyway, I said, night number 3, tonight, I will be wide awake and I will take care of business. I promise you, I will be there. I don't care who shows up, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, about 2:30, she slept on a little pallet we had in the living room, and I'm sitting there with a low light in the room, and I'm sitting there with a beautiful black scabbard, the most beautiful black painted sword scabbard you've ever seen in your life. And in it is the most beautiful samurai blade you have ever imagined. It had over $1,000 work done on just the blade itself.
Nice.
So I mean, it's so sharp.
Swords.
I can shave with this thing. I mean, it's
Love
that
it.
sharp. So I'm waiting, and at 2:30, 2:45 in the morning, she sets up very fast, scared, breathing hard and everything. And I said, it's okay, I'm here. What that means when people do something like that, when they know when the alien's near, they can sense, they can spot them for a mile. And she woke up knowing that it's happening. And I said, I want you to go back to sleep. It's okay. I am here. I will be here. And so she lays back down and just conks out. And I moved my blade and pulled it out and laid it beside me. And she sets up exactly 3 o'clock in the morning, slow motion, looks over at me and says, they know you're here. And I said, well, good. Now they know I'm here. I know I'm here. You know I'm here. They know I'm here. Now I know that they know I'm here. We all know I'm here.
And it's a party.
That's one of these days, I'm going to be on the other side of that wall, or they're going to be on the wrong side of the wall, and I'm going to be here. And that's going to be a real unhappy day for them, because they're going to find out what sashimi is. It's called sliced meat in Japanese.
Sliced alien meat.
Yeah, something like that.
Decapitated with that sword.
Wow.
Well, I'll tell you what, I said, I think they're a bunch of cowards. And I said, I know they're there. And I said, I think that's pitiful. They attack women, children, and people who are in their sleep who can't do anything about it. And I find it despicable, but that's neither here nor there. I said, they got my children as well. And I said, so when you tamper with abductees or contactees, that's your business, their business. But when you come in my home as an invader and come after children and things like that, I said, I take a very personal approach to the subject, as you can imagine. And anyway, that ended her events on those 3 right there. But later they showed up in my home, which is really, really super unusual. My wife and I were, I told Katja was helping me with my first book I was writing, and I had a bunch of the boxes of books and pictures and things laying out. So she was helping me assemble them and so on. And I said, I'm going to go out and meet Doris for lunch. And she got real nervous, and she like before. And she says, if you're going to move or something after, would you call me and tell me and let me know? And I said, of course, we'll contact you. Yeah, absolutely. So I realized something's wrong with this picture. And I left, and I shut the door and I locked it. I made sure the bolt was locked, and she sat down on the couch, was still working on the books. And I met my wife. We were having a wonderful fish sandwich each, and right in the middle of it, we're talking and going on, having a good time. And I said, oh my God, they're in our house right now. She said, what are you talking about? I said, they are in our home right now at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're there. And anyway, I grabbed all our food on the table, and there were these big paper holders, and I grabbed everything and just walked out the door and ran to the car. She opened the car, and I threw everything in her lap and raced as fast as I could to go back to her home. She said, "What's going on?" I said, "They are in our home right now with her." And as soon as I got there, opened the door, and she was walking around incoherent with blood coming from her ear down her neck. And I realized we're late. They had just left. They knew we were on the way. And before we got there, she said, someone knocked on the door, like knock, knock, knock. And I leaned forward to get up on the couch, and she said, "He was already in the room." I said, "Who?" She said, "He wore a big black long coat and a big large hat, a strange looking mask. That's called a mib." And she says, and he kept telling me, "Look at this, look at this, look at the book, look at this." And she said, I mean, I just fell over on the couch. I was just incoherent. He was talking to me and everything. And she said, then another man showed up, a strange looking man, very tall and very much different than him. And I listened to her explain and describe him. I knew who he was. And so she said, they tried to make me believe that your son was present, and they used the smell of his cologne to make me think he was here. And I kept saying, you know, David. And then I realized all of a sudden they were playing me, and they were trying to get me to agree to let them remove. I said, what? And she said, an implant out of my ear.
They removed it.
I said,
wow.
I had no idea you had an implant in your ear. You never told me this. And anyway, she said they wouldn't and couldn't, supposedly couldn't remove it without her permission. And this went on and on. And
yeah.
So finally, the tallest one, the one that was in charge, kept looking at the clock, the special clock that you bought for your wife when you were in Paris, France. And I said, what do you think he was looking at the clock for? She said, I knew I could read him. And she said, he was worried because you were on the way. He knew you were coming, and he did not want to see you. And I said, well, that's interesting. And anyway, long story short, they got the object out of her and left. By the time I got there, they were gone. And she was incoherent, crying, walking around. And I'd had Doris take her into the bathroom. And I said, you take this black light and you check her from the bottom of her feet to the top of her head. I want to know if there's anything amiss. I want to know where the blood came from. She said, well, it come from her ear. And I said, that's what it appears to be. It doesn't mean anything. And she checked her, and she said, the weird thing about the blood is on her ear, on her neck, but there's a cut anywhere, nowhere at all. And there's no blood inside the ear canal. And I said, that's what I'm thinking. So anyway, that ended that particular event. But I knew who the two individuals were. I had met the tallest one in my last event when I was 17 years old.
Wow. Some people believe that implants, government is more responsible for putting implants in, as opposed to a lot of people claim that ET wouldn't need that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
it's a whole really mixed bunch of stuff, you know.
I like your questions because you're not afraid to get to the real points. No. And I'm certainly not afraid to answer the questions. I did a presentation in 1995 to 250 surgeons and doctors, John Muir Medical Hospital, and I said, we're going to find these particular things if these implants that I'm showing you are correct. As we haven't done any surgeries yet, but we intend to hopefully this next year. I said, if these implants are alien in origin, there'll be 5 things that are going to be ultimately true. There'll be wrong nerve cells present in the location. The implant will be wrapped in a biological cocoon that will not be native to that part of the body, et cetera, et cetera. All these amazing things that they knew could not be true. I said, that's how we'll know it's an alien implant. The second thing I said, which many of you are probably thinking is these are, if there are really any implants, they're intel, they're from the intelligence community, or in fact, they're corporate. And that's, if they're real, that's what they'll be. I said, the fact is that you can tell human technology from the alien implant. The alien implant will not have any discernible forms of technology, none. So we've not found any quote unquote intel implants yet, but we have found, I've done 25 surgical interventions so far, one of them in India, and the last couple of them were in Houston. But the point is that these surgical interventions have given us some really amazing, some astounding information about the phenomena. And I'll just give you a little if you're interested. I guess let me answer the big question first concerning the alien and the intelligence people. Because I get this a lot, and then a lot of people say, "Well, the intelligence community or the military or whoever, they're responsible for all the cattle mutilations. They're responsible for the alien thing, blah, 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 all these different things." And I said, "Well, okay, let me tackle the first one first." And one of the people who believe in that is a very good friend of mine. He's a police officer. And we argue this all the time. And he said the intelligence community or the military are behind this these mutilations. And I said, well, you're half right. I said, they're following the alien. They're watching them. And the alien's watching them. So I said, you got it all backwards. You really have. And he said, no, I'm absolutely right, 100%. I said, hey, you're wrong. And I said, don't make me prove you wrong in front of God and everybody else. And he says, you got a case, make it. And I said, you opened Pandora's box. And then I told him about a case where tons of meat had fallen from the air.
Oh, wow.
And it was cattle, human.
Oh, ew.
Lungs, specifically lungs and heart of humans, etc. And they were sliced.
Why?
I said, now, let me ask you a question. He said, that still doesn't prove it wasn't the intelligence community. I said, you're not letting me finish my story. It happened in the 1800s. Who in the CIA did that, in your opinion?
Wow.
That ended the argument. And I said, if you'll look carefully at petroglyphs, and look at a lot of them, and I said, you will see that I can show you petroglyphs of an alien who actually has a ram in one hand and a sheep in the other, and they're taking them up to the craft. That's 1,000 years old. Who in the CIA did that, do you think? Because you're not making sense. That's it. You're making your statements are obvious, and there's nothing wrong with them. The problem is your data doesn't support it. You have to go with the earliest event as to who's the leading cause of what. And I said these are the earlier events. So by definition, the alien implant, we have to get a definition, otherwise we're going to be lost here. An implant, and by my definition, is an implanted device, and here's the big one for you, or installed neurochemical or action or process by which the alien entity uses that source in some reflective way to leave a signature that you can actually figure out or find by medical, scientific, or even psychological processes. Alien implants have one primary use. That is to carry or deliver or retrieve information from or resulting to that phenomena. It can be continuous and short term. It can affect the memory, reproductive system, and when needed, affect cells of the central nervous system to activate other 5 senses to do what they basically want to do. It is real specific.
That's crazy. Wow. What should people look for if they think they are being abducted or contacted? I mean, let's face it, I would imagine some of these implants go pretty deep. There may not be any real way of knowing unless you do an x-ray. And those aren't really easy to get. Just, I know here in Canada, if I say, how much I think I have an implant, they look at you and go, mm-hmm.
Get the jacket, Betty.
We're not giving you an
Get the
expensive x-ray
jacket,
because you
Betty.
think you have an implant.
Yes. It's a great question. And I've got good news for your audience and better news, I hope. The good news is most people that have contact in these experiences, whether abductees or contactees, do not have implants.
Okay.
Do not have implants.
Really?
I look at hundreds of x-rays every year from people who know they have implants. They know they do.
Okay.
And they, in fact, don't. In most cases, it's just not true. Just because you find an object in your unusual lump, bump, or scratch or scar, or you have a memory of, they must have done something to me, that doesn't make you have an implant. It just doesn't.
So what makes you so special that you would get an implant? And I'm not being facetious.
No, that's a great
what's
question.
There's
a particular rationale for why a person would receive an implant, and not everybody's going to be a good prospect for that, believe it or not.
Okay.
And my second piece of information is this. For those of you who think you're unfortunate because you didn't get an implant, let me help you out here.
I don't want
one of those people.
Yeah. Let me help you out. If you've seen an alien, you've been close to an alien or close to that craft, you have already been programmed.
What?
Period. You're already. You're.
So everyone who it comes into contact with them is implanted.
They've been programmed.
Programmed. Sorry, I see it.
Implant is different situation.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, so we'll go back to implant, then we'll head over to program.
Please. Thank you.
So now they're, and like I said, here's a way that people can check out things if they want to. If you still feel you're implanted or you're the one of a million that I was implanted, one of the best ways to do that, if you feel like that's true in your case, and most of the time it's a feeling, not necessarily a fact, you can go to a chiropractor. It's a good example. They're far cheaper, and for instance, you say something's in my hand. I know they put it in my hand, or whatever. Go tell your chiropractor that you bumped your hand and you want to make sure it's okay, and you're like an x-ray. Do not mention the word alien. Do not mention the word implants. Just
do not mention
say,
Derrel
I bumped
Sims.
my hand. Is everything okay there?
Yeah.
And as soon as they x-ray it, then you pay them their money, and then you leave with the x-ray. Send me a copy of it, and I and my medical team will evaluate it for you. And that's free of charge. We don't charge anything to evaluate this stuff. So our work is philanthropic. It's I haven't charged anybody anything for any of this. I do pay for this out of my own pocket. So we're not making money off these poor abductees by convincing them all they have alien implants so we can do surgery on them and charge them millions of dollars. That's totally incorrect. 27 surgeries. I'm not charging anybody anything for anything. I even in the majority of the cases, even paid for the medication after the fact. So the point is, we care about what's happened to these people. I know what's happened to them because I've been there. I was a recipient of an implant at age 12 years old. So I kind of get it. And I know about that process. So I have no interest in capitalizing on these people and from their horrific experiences.
So what is programming then? When you say the majority of people have been programmed, whether they're contactee, abductee, experiencer?
Well, programming, just say this. Programming can take place in different ways. A good example is when my former daughter-in-law, whenever she was freaking out and said she got shaking and she realized they're coming. That's part of programming. They leave an indelible experience with you that that they're near. And when that happens, it tends to have some side effects on people. Some of the effects from contact and these things are show up in our statistics that we have. 45% of these people that get taken in these events, 45% of them are Native American and Irish, Celtic, or Scottish. They are. And it doesn't mean that all people that are Native American, Irish, Celtic, it doesn't mean that they're all, it means that you're the most likely candidate.
Higher concentrations.
Yeah.
55% of people are taken are not any of those. They're other than that.
Wow.
See, I'm safe.
But out of that entire selection, only a certain few are going to actually have implantation. And again, there are reasons for that. It's not that you're bigger, better, taller, more beautiful, or more handsome. Of course, in my case, that could be a difference. The fact is that none of that makes any difference whatsoever.
Right.
None.
Right.
It's not based on any of that. It's not because you're a genius or because you have a high IQ. As one scientist asked me one time, he said, "Could you tell me about the abductees and contactees?" I said, "Sure." I said, "We have some that are NASA scientists. We have some that are geniuses. We have others that are so average. They're housewives. They're carpenters, plumbers, tradesmen, IT people, all kinds of people. And we have some that, in my opinion, I can't figure out how they find food."
Wow.
So it's not based on your IQ. I said everybody would love to think that.
Your line, Derrel.
They're getting all these NASA scientists. That's just not true. We do have 3 of them that are abductees. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, by and large, they don't care about, are you a NASA scientist? It's irrelevant to them because they know more than you do anyway. It doesn't matter. They're not interested in what you know.
Mm-hmm.
They're interested in other things.
Like what?
So, well, they're never going to tell you. They just
really?
Why?
Like they're
okay,
they're
like
not going to have that conversation. Do they ever confide in you and just wipe out your memory?
They often confide in people, and it's called a screen memory. A screen memory is the true false memory syndrome.
Okay.
In other words, they just told you a whopper. In other words, if they were telling you about Roswell, they might say something like, "It was a weather balloon," just like the military did.
Right.
It's a lie.
Right.
The screen memories, okay, for instance, one of the screen memories very common in these experiences is that you are, in fact, it's a true story, hand of God, true story here. A dear friend of mine said I was at this girls' camp, and I was a counselor for the girls there, and as a counselor, the women stay there with the girls, and 10 or 12, 20, or however many there were in each little facility. And I said, okay. And she said, the next morning, she said, 2 of the girls came to me privately and said, "We feel like we could trust you." And she said, "Well, you certainly can." What happened? This large wolf with large black eyes came inside the facility last night and just woke me and her up and told us to go with him. She said, "That's interesting. How do you suppose wolves talk?" She said, "Well, he didn't bark or anything. He talked mind to mind, and he had his huge black eyes." There was no wolf.
Well, obviously, how would they get
It's an alien taking the
form.
imagery. They're giving a false image of a wolf, so that, I mean, if you like wolves or you think they're the neatest thing since sliced bread, that'll happen. Often children who watch cartoons are taken by the Casper, the friendly ghost, who has large black eyes.
Mm-hmm.
But he was really kind, and or sometimes they'll mimic a teddy bear and things like that. And whatever it is that affects children, they will use that as their front door to get in.
Now, can they mimic an individual, a loved one?
they do that as well. The case where that happened, there was a man who was taken in his events, and he said, I knew something was wrong. He said, and they asked him the question, why, what was wrong? He said, well, my mom was standing there washing dishes like she always did. And my dad's sitting there reading newspaper like he always does while she's washing dishes. And my dog's laying beside Dad like he always does. And so the investigator said, well, what's wrong with that? He said, our dog's been dead for months.
Ah, wow. Okay.
He said, I kept shaking my head and I realized then he could see 3 aliens there. One where his mother was, one where his dad was, one where the dog was. And he said, and we weren't in my home.
Wow.
So you realize you've been played. It's kind of like they create a holodeck, and for these so-called screened memories of for these events. And this helps them facilitate the facade or the fakery that you're in the school of higher consciousness or wherever it is they want you to be. And in some cases, you're not even. In 80% of the cases, I'll tell your audience this right off. This makes some people real upset, and others are real happy with it. 80% of the cases, you're not taken anywhere. You're in your bed or in your car, wherever you're at when the contact happens. You didn't go anywhere. You're still there.
What about everybody else
As
in the house?
essence, then? Did they take your essence?
They can do whatever they need to do mentally. Like I said, when I talked about programming,
Yes,
that's part of the programming. You don't even get it. You're just in your car sitting there, can't figure out why you're there for 3 hours or 2 hours, and you're
lost time.
Yeah. What happened to me? Why am I here? Where am I parked out here in the woods? What does this mean? And so on. And then there are cases, 20% of the cases, you're actually physically taken. No question about that. In those cases, now, and I'll make this clear distinction, there are people who were not taken physically at all, and we have good, strong evidence of this, but they were manipulated with this mind experience and so on. And they actually believed they were in Zeta Reticuli or some far off planet, some Goldilocks planet in in a star system far, far away, and so on. They were actually in their bed, because in one case I was actually hired, because this lady thought she was being taken every night. They hired me to come there, her and her husband, to watch her every night, all night long. Sweetie, you never left your bed. You never went anywhere, ever.
But she had to
I experiences. I said, in your case, I said, you're reliving the same experiences. Wow. They're so profound to you, and they've had such a horrific event on you. You're reliving it. They didn't even show up to interfere with you. I said, I'm watching your body movements. I had a camera there. I said, I can watch your body movements. I can read your body language just while you're asleep. And you're reliving events here. I know that. So when you're physically taken, when the alien will pick you up and carry you by the arm like this or whatever, when they physically touch you, they will often leave a fluorescent trace on you. That fluorescence will penetrate your skin subdermally on contact, and it will literally, you can't wash it off, get it off. It'll last for at least 48 hours. And I tell people, for the first 48 before the crime scene begins to disappear.
Just like in a crime, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a reasonable statement.
Starts to get cold.
That's right. So in these events where they're physically taken, I tell people, if you've physically been taken, there is evidence on you, around you, or in you. And that's why you need to get in contact with me within that first 48 hours before you destroy your own evidence out of ignorance or simply because you don't want to know.
When you say in you, what exactly do you mean, Derrel?
Well, that could be like
Of course, you cut off right there.
That would be an implant, as an example. There's another example. In some cases where you're physically taken, they will make these people drink a certain type of liquid. And I won't go into the descriptions of it because I don't want people to say, "Oh yeah, me too. I had that last night. It's the alien milkshake or whatever." You know, it leaves the inside of your mouth. It is a horrific taste, and it will make you defecate within a minute or so. And nobody knows why this is, but the fact is, the fluorescent color inside your mouth will be amazing.
I've never been abducted.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, no, I don't have.
She's
any
in complete
of these.
denial. Also,
no, I don't have any of these things. And I go back to Italy all the way to 647. So we're still. I don't know.
I'm gonna leave that right there because again, complete denial. She just has all that. You know, I at least admit it because you know
it's enough that I've had NDEs one after the other. Like
I think I respect your position completely. I have no problem with that.
I'm just in shock because you're the only one that we've ever had on that comes on and makes these statements, and I know they're real. Like I just appreciate your honesty and your depth because the information you're giving us is not out there.
Well, I did a presentation for a MUFON organization a month ago, and the state director came on and gave me the most wonderful accolades. And I said, "Wow, you're so kind to me." And she says, "Listen to me. I first met you in Ocean Shores at a conference, and it was my first presentation. It was about 20 years ago. And she said, you did this presentation. You were the keynote speaker. You blew everybody out of you blew their socks off. They were not prepared for you at all." And she said, "And I wasn't either." She said, "Now I'm a MUFON top investigator." And she said, "I'm telling you, you came over and told me, gave me great hints on what to do and how to perfect my presentation. She says my first time, and I did the worst you could imagine. And you told me I did fine, and you were helping me. I've never had a presenter help another presenter. They don't care about that. I mean, if you're at the top of the stack, what do you care about little people?" And she said, "I've never forgotten that." She said, "When you did your presentation today for 2 solid hours on PowerPoint, and then you answered all our questions for an hour, solid, most of them from investigators." She said, "Derrel, I have to tell you, 80% of the things you presented, we had never, ever heard of." And I said, "Well, that statement puts me in a bit of a tight because now I said, my political enemies are going to use that as, yeah, you think you know more than everybody, right?" And I wished I did. I wished I did know a lot more than I do. But the fact is that you have to be respectful of people. And look, I'll back up to a story that was very important too, because you brought out a really important thing. A lady came to me, and I may have mentioned this once before, but it bears. There are 3 kinds of people in these stories. One are abductees. These are people who I refer to as the honeybees, the contactees, the honeybees. They like the alien. They think they're here to save the planet, fix ozone hole, and do all kinds of wonderful things, but they hadn't done it in thousands of years. But neither here nor there. That's their belief. They're, I think, been in that holodeck too long, and they keep believing the stories that the imagery that they see. So that's number one. Number two, there are a group of people like me or abductees who do remember part of their events, and they don't like what happened. They don't like the idea of being kidnapped. If you want to talk to me and you're from another planet, let's have a talk. Let's meet. Let's do it on equal grounds. You don't need to sneak up in the middle of the night claiming to be an emissary of light who functions in total darkness. Why do I have a problem with that?
Do you think they have an aversion to electricity or EMF, things like that?
No,
Is that why?
There are reasons for this. Okay. You're easier to capture at night. I mean, it's why does a kidnapper? he's going to get you at your worst position. I mean, it's easiest for him to do what he's going to do, and it's basic logic in committing a crime. It's the MO. And there are people that are taken in daytime. And one of my events when I was younger, I'll tell about that later if you like.
Sure.
I was taken in broad daylight, and I had a .22 rifle on me with 17 rounds in it. I mean, it happens. So anyway, the lady, she said it was in Sedona. I was speaking. She said,
Sedona, there's your problem.
Beautiful, yeah.
Oh, I know.
The whole city is a PowerPoint.
Yeah, it's like that. So she says,
it's an outlet. Yeah.
She said, I filled out your forms, and 33 of the 35 things that might suggest that I was an abductee, I had 33 of them. She said, I think you're full of bull. I don't believe a word of it. And I said, okay. She said, that doesn't bother you? I said, not at all. I said, I can't make you an abductee or not an abductee. I don't care. It's none of my business. Your life is your life. I can't make you anything or make you not anything. So 2 years later, she meets me again with my senior investigator. They're personal friends at engineering and all that. And she meets me in Phoenix. And she says, I've got these nagging thoughts, and I've got to find out. And I said, okay, may I caution you? She said, about what? I said, if I may use a metaphor, but the metaphor is more real than you can imagine, Pandora, are you sure you want to open this box? She says, but you're the UFO guy. Yes, what you do. I said, listen to me carefully. I'm not some other person you've met on the internet or seen in some conference. I'm here to protect you and help you and guide you through this. Opening Pandora's box is not, I don't need another case. I have 2,000 cases worldwide. I don't need you. I don't need your whining. I don't need your crying. I don't need your, oh, it's wonderful. They're all here to save the planet. I don't care about all that. I don't need any of it. All I want is the data, and I don't, not at the expense of it harming you. I said, are you sure you want to open this box? And she looked at me and thought for a while. Very smart woman. She said, yes. I said, okay. And she says, well, what if nothing's there? I said, if nothing happened, young lady, nothing's there. So that'll be the best information I ever got, and you will ever get. Yeah, no so let's go for it. I checked her and I worked her and made sure I had her in memory, and then popped her into an event if it was there. And she's 5 years old, walking inside the craft with the alien holding onto her little arm. And she hears a cow bellowing in the room to the right as they go inside the craft. They're mutilating it.
Oh.
And she is freaking completely out. I told her, I said, I told you not to do this. She goes further into the event, and this went on. I kept her in the events for close to 2 hours. Finally, brought her out, and she cried and cried and cried. Very tough gal. This is not a woman who cries. She is crying her eyes out and said, oh my God, none of this can be true. It can't be true. I've got to be making it up. And I mentioned several things, and she said, that wasn't made up. That wasn't made up. That wasn't made up. I said, then how do you account for it? She says, oh my God, I really have opened the box, haven't I? I said, yes, you have.
Careful what you wish for, right?
The problem is now you have to live with this.
Right.
Now you're an engineer who doesn't believe in all this stuff. Now you're going to have to. And I said, my best advice, keep your mouth shut and act like it didn't happen and just live with it. And so she said, I want to know the rest of the story. And I said, are you sure? And she says, yes. And I said, I just care about you. I don't want you doing this for me or for your friend or anyone else here. Do this because you need to know, or just drop it. And I said, my best advice to you is to drop it. She said, I have to know. I said, so did I. Sleep. And she fell over. And I mean, we continued the events from where before. And I mean, it just, she said, I just can't believe I've had abductions, contact events, probably half a dozen events my adult life, since childhood till my adult life. And I don't even have a clue. I said, that's the third group of people, abductees, contactees, and people who don't know, period.
Do any of these groups know why this is happening to us, why they're programming, what they want from us?
Contactees will give you it's a very fun message. They're going to say the planet Pixio is on hold. They're going to help us. They're upgrading our DNA. They're doing this. They're doing that and everything. None of this is true.
Not even the healing part. You'll hear people say, I was sick, I had cancer, and now I don't.
No, I'm a victim of that myself. And
Okay.
I'll be glad to address that. I'm happy to address it. Anything positive, I'm 100%. Let's go for it.
Okay.
Let me start it off in another way. A lady met in Arizona at a conference. This was in 1988 or 1989. A guy brought her up to me. He said, I went to your workshop and man, I'm just looking for people in Native American, Indian, Irish, blah, 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 and all these different things, have rare drug allergies, procaines. Wow. So he just starts going around asking people these questions. And he found a number of abductees, and he brought this lady over to me. And short, brown hair, brown eyes, and long brown hair. And I looked at her and smiled, and I said, I think I got you. He says, what? And I said, you're Cherokee Irish, aren't you? She said, how'd you know that? That's just a wild guess, I suppose. And she says, well, I've had these abduction experiences since I was a child. And I said, okay. I said, he asked me a really weird question. And I said, I normally don't ask that question because I don't like people. Anyway, she said, he asked me if I had 2 sets of teeth.
That's unusual.
Do you? And she says, yes. I said, do you mind? And she opened her mouth and she had a second set of teeth below and above.
You gotta be kidding me.
And I said, may I ask you a personal question? Because I had this horrific, awful sense of humor. I said, does your dentist give you a discount?
Oh my God, I was just thinking that too about that.
And she laughed and laughed and laughed.
Because I like to go to my dentist. It costs me a fortune. So.
She laughed and said, oh, she says, you are so funny. And I said, if only I could convince my wife of that.
Right.
That's a lot of floss.
Yeah, pretty much. So anyway, we laughed, and I said, I'd like you to fill out my form here if you would. And she did. And I read it and right off. Of course, I'm looking at her handwriting to see if she has been programmed and in what way.
Okay.
Your handwriting is brain writing. And it tells me things about you that may be of use to our investigation. I said, have you ever had any medical condition whereby you had injuries you could not account for? And she said, oh, I've got a story to tell you. When I was a little girl, I sprained my hand, and they took me to the doctor. My doctor, she said, now this is quite a while ago when we had family doctors and everything was small town. Everybody knows everybody. I said, okay. She said, a doctor x-rayed my hand, of course, and he found some broken bones in my arm. I said, what happened? He asked my mom and dad when I broke my arm. They said, she's never had a broken arm. And he called the police.
Yeah, well, understandably.
Yeah.
And after they all had this long discussion and talk about honesty and everything else, the police finally believed the little girl that mom and dad had never touched her, never hurt her in any way. But somebody did, I can assure you of that. So how did she get the injury? It was alien related, of course. So the question, how does that happen and you don't know about it? You don't know about it because until you get an x-ray and you realize there's a broken bone there. How did that heal up? Now let's fast forward. I went to the VA hospital as a veteran of foreign wars, and the doctor looked at me, my primary care physician, says, "Derrel, how you feeling today?" And I said, "Well, I got a little pain over here." And he says, "No, your broken ribs are over here." I said, "I don't have any broken ribs." "It's just you do. It's on your x-rays right here." I said, "No, I don't have any broken." Of course, I already knew the truth of that, but I just wasn't going to give it up to him.
Yeah.
So he calls a radiologist, and they get in this big, horrible fight. Radiologist screaming at him, "I make $300,000 a year. You don't tell me whether the guy's got it. He's got broken ribs. I say he does. He does." And he's screaming. He's furious. He hangs the phone up and looks at me and kind of laughs and says, "I guess you do have broken ribs." And I didn't tell him, but I later told another primary care physician of mine how it happened. And I said, in my last event, they kicked my rib cage in.
Wow.
She says, "But," I said, "before you give me that stupid looking Boo Radley look on your face about I don't believe in aliens and I don't believe in all that," I said, "I could care less whether you do or not." I said, "You're a primary care physician and a good one working here at the VA hospital." I said, "I work with cardiovascular surgeons, brain surgeons, and others who assist me in going after medical evidence of alleged alien contact. You could not carry these people's luggage medically. So don't look at me like I'm nuts, because you're going to have to brand all of them too if you're going to do that with the same brand." But a lady came to me not long after that, and she called me on the phone. She asked me a question. I said, "Doctor, if I may, would you please get to the point? It's okay. I'm thick-skinned." She said, "Have you ever found abductees that had injuries, for instance, like had a car injury, and you found other injuries that the car injury kind of hid, so to speak?" And I said, "Yes, and I'm one of them." So broken ribs, and there's no accounting for it, as you know as well as I do. If you bruise a rib, it's hard to move, it's hard to breathe. To have broken ribs and not know it, that's not possible.
No, it's
Anybody with a
not.
brain
I've
knows
had
that.
bruised ribs.
Yeah,
No,
it's not going to work.
you can't move.
Yeah. Try and move fast or breathe.
You can't breathe.
Can't do it. You
Shallow
can't do
breaths.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I said, I've got a surgical procedure inside my nasal septum when I received an implant. And the ENT looked at that and he said, who did the surgery on you? I never did tell him. I later told my primary care physician, but not him, because I wanted it part of the medical record in the VA hospital. I wanted to start records there of people that had alien contact and what it looked like for real. So anyway, the neurologist told me about this. She said, "Some of your abductees are patients of mine who had various injuries, car wrecks, and so on. And I'm examining them and finding that they have injuries that far exceed the natural accident that befell them." I said, "Do you think that the alien may have been responsible for those?" She said, "Based on your testimony and what I've found medically, yes." She said, "Why would they heal them up?" And I said, "To cover up what they've done, of course." I said, "For instance, why would my ribs get kicked in? What medical reason does anybody have for kicking in a 17 or 18-year-old boy's ribs?"
Fighting back? Self-defense?
No, actually, the entities that took me in that last event weren't even the alien. They were those who were above them and beyond them. And the point is, they are not friendly. They're not here to fix a plan. They're here to do whatever they come to do. And if you interfere in any way, a kicked ribs is just one of the things you can expect.
Okay.
And they're horrific. And I said, but the point is, since they couldn't leave me for dead for whatever reason, they had to fix the problem so that I wouldn't even know about it. Next morning, I was fine.
What do you mean by above and beyond them? Who are they?
Oh, you're very astute.
I worked crime for years, so it's
Well,
just that part
let's
of me.
see
Sorry.
Here. Yeah, here we have two women who are smart in their own right, asking incredibly invasive questions. Me
Just gonna get better, Derrel.
about.
It's just the first
We've got
half.
another hour.
Oh, I like it. I get bored. I get bored to tears when people ask me, "Well, tell us about your experience. Do you really believe in aliens?"
I've done a lot of
I
interviews.
really
It's
want
hard
to
to be
turn the thing
repetitive.
off. You know, I mean, it just
We
really.
get them
No, why
too.
don't you just watch YouTube or something? You can hear the story 100 times without change. Let's get to the nitty gritty. Who are those guys? Well, I've never described them to anyone, and I never will, probably.
That's fair.
A group. Well, there's a reason for that in police work. A good example: if you have a serial killer case, make up a case. I can make up the case, but I've seen it actually happen. A serial killer will have killed someone, and it'll go nationwide, and then you'll get these phone calls as a detective. I did it. Oh my God, I can't believe I killed her. And you're like, good, let's go round this guy up. But the problem is there'd be half a dozen of them to call.
No more than that.
So the question is, why would you hide certain information from the public? Well, you ask them, how many times how'd you kill her? Well, I stabbed her. Well, he saw that on TV. So I stabbed her. Well, how many times? Was it once or a million?
Okay.
I stabbed her 8 times.
I follow you and I get you with that, and it's
And
true.
you find out that the guy says he did it with the right hand, and the guy was left-handed that did it.
Okay.
So
now
you eliminate a lot of these people real quick. You don't have to bring them down and argue with them. There's something wrong with them. They're admitting to things that they have no idea that they didn't do.
Okay.
So once I tell this story, I promise you, I'll have people call for this network and they say, "Oh yeah, Derrel, me too."
Yeah.
Okay.
15 minutes
Well,
of fame.
describe them to me, because they're not in any UFO literature. You can forget that. You're not going to find them on the internet. Sorry. So one lady called and said, "I had the same exact experience. And I just want you to know it's okay. I've had the same experience." That sweetie, I don't believe a word you're saying. She says, "Why?" I said, "Because you're still intact."
So
What do you mean? I said, "Well, I was a first degree black belt at the time. I said I'm a fourth now. I pretty well handle myself. And I doubt that you have those combative skills. I'm an ex-CIA. I train people in covert operations, a weapons instructor, and so on and so on. I kind of have a real tough background, I mean, I taught assassination techniques and how to remove enemy sentries in Vietnam and warfare and so on. I don't think you have any of those skills. I came out with caved-in ribs. How did you get back without a scratch?" "Well, but they like me." I said, "No, ma'am, they don't." I said, "They don't have any interest in you at all." I said, "So describe them to me." She said, "Well, there's this long white table, and they had long flowing hair, and it was the Council of the Wise and the Intergalactic Space Federation, whatever." I said, "You've been watching too much Star Trek.
I say that's a video game.
You don't even have a clue."
So she's a
that's the reason you don't tell anybody, because if you do, they'll mimic you totally. I said, "I've only met 8 people, 8. In all of my tens of thousands of interviews, only met 8 people, only 8 that actually met one of the 5 that I met that night. Their lives have been forever changed, shattered, altered, psychologically, physiologically, whatever." One case in point, a man came to me and he avoided me 3 days at a conference in LA where I was keynoting. And he avoided. And finally, the last day, I know you can see these people because they'll avoid you. They'll walk way around. They will not come anywhere near your booth. And you can spot them easily. So anyway, on the last day, I'm loading stuff up, getting everything ready to leave, and I got my back turned to him, and he comes up, and I can tell he's a black fella. He said, "Mr. Sims, may I ask you a question?" And I said, I turned around and said, "Well, there you are. I've been looking for you for 3 days." "Yes, sir. I've been avoiding you." I said, "Yes, you have. Why is that?" "I want to ask you a question. I'm going to draw something, and I want you to tell me if you've ever seen this." I said, "You want to know if it's real or not?" And he said, "Yes." He starts drawing the image of the primary character of the 5. I took the pen out of his hand and finished the drawing. He said, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." And he ran away. This is not an alien experience that you can get regressed and have some good time with. It ain't going to be like that.
I don't imagine there's too many of those.
It's not going to be a fun time screen memory that you're in the School of Higher Consciousness. These are they, in my opinion, who are part and parcel to, I use the term, to make things more exciting when I get people who are not like you two guys, who are doing this really invasive, really good interview. They'll ask the question, "Well, tell us about your first event," and that's okay. And so to make it better, I'll say, well, it's more important to let you not only realize he was there, but how I knew things about him when I was 4. He didn't have a belly button. He didn't have genitalia. He had large round eyes that were not the elliptical version like the Hollywood guys. I said, my point in telling you that is so that you'll ask questions. "What questions are those?" I said, "You want me to ask your questions for you?" I said, "Okay. Why did he have round eyes when the other guys have these elliptical eyes?" I said, "Imagine a Chevette versus a Chevy."
Chevelle.
Yeah, Chevelle. That sort of thing. I said,
1967 Chevelle.
It's an older model. I said,
I'll take the Impala, though.
I said, this is 1952.
I'll take the Impala.
Impala, there you go.
Yeah.
I said, he didn't have any genitalia. I said, little kids would notice that. He didn't have any clothes on. Kids would notice that. The adults would be stuck in his eyes. "Oh my God, I was in the School of Higher Consciousness and he was telling me all kinds of wonderful information," none of which you can, of course, verify. And the amazing thing, I said, is I noticed he didn't have a belly button. I said, I didn't know what all that meant when I was a kid, but I said, as I became an investigator and began to look at things medically, I realized if he didn't have genitalia, he doesn't procreate. If he doesn't have a belly button, he wasn't born. He doesn't get here the way we do. He was hatched, cloned, made, or manufactured.
Yeah.
So if that's true, I said, and you look at the 7 primary alien creatures that are out there that people report continuously, these are 7 different races from other worlds. No, they're not. There's 7 beings, 7 kinds of being, made, hatched, cloned, manufactured from DNA that come from planet Earth. And finally, the light will come on one of these guys' heads, and they'll say, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And that's what I mean, exactly what I said. I said, where in the world? I said, some of these beings look like a praying mantis. Where do you suppose you get praying mantis DNA from? Uranus or Saturn or Zeta Reticuli? Where do you think? We have hundreds of species of praying mantises right here on old planet Earth. This is the cosmic wild kingdom, and we have the biggest Walmart DNA Walmart you've ever seen right on planet Earth.
Yeah.
I said, where do you suppose that the Nordic guy, the human version that shows up long, beautiful hair and blue eyes. Where do you get DNA from?
Well,
I'm
some
going
will
to take a
tell you
wild
that
guess.
they come from other
Probably
planets.
Norway. I just a guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some will tell you that they
Yeah.
come from other planets, and we're sort of a dumping ground.
Yeah. So they might get that DNA from Norway, I'm guessing. And one of the reasons the Nazis had so much interest in the Norwegians and taking over their country, and specifically in the long blonde-haired types that had seen them in their events.
Yeah, very.
That's why they tried to make a
Palladian
perfect race of these people,
Mhm.
because they thought they were perfect. That's where they got the idea. Had nothing to do with Aryans and white supremacy. It had nothing to do with any of that. Had to do with these guys.
Mhm.
Then you look at a couple other illustrations. I said, you look at the reptile. Where do you suppose they got a reptile from? Probably from planet Earth. We got a lot of reptiles here. You can choose from all kinds. And I said, and then when I went to talk to my native buddy, we're talking to each other, and I said, tell me about the gray? He said, oh, you mean the star people? I said, don't feed me that garbage. That's what you tell white people. Who is he? Where'd he come from? Oh, they come from inside the Earth. Well, I thought they came from Zeta Reticuli. No, they come from inside the Earth. We all know that.
Call them the ant people.
I said, that's interesting. That's why you call them the ant people.
Right.
And if you look at some of the ancient pictographs, they've actually got little antennae sticking off their head way back then, until they modified the model to make it look like an alien instead of an ant. I said, so that's interesting. So we're still on planet Earth with this DNA discovery. I said, then you look at Bigfoot. Well, I said, don't feed me that stuff. I got it. I said, they did a DNA study on Bigfoot in Nacogdoches, Texas, under Dr. Melba Ketchum, and she did a tremendous job, and she found out two things. One, no big surprise here, that he is a simian, an ape creature, no question about that. And the second thing they found was modern human woman mitochondrial DNA. I said,
how did you get a specimen?
That's called a, well, I offered to send specimens, and they said they had enough. I said,
Bigfoot
that's fine.
specimens.
I said, I have a fingernail and a urine sample from an adolescent DNA, Bigfoot. And I said, I've got hair sample from the 1980s. They said, we got enough. I said, fine, that's good. I said, I'm not a Bigfoot investigator, but it doesn't mean I don't know anything about him. I pointed out my female modern human woman DNA in a Bigfoot. That's called transgenics. Transgenics is when you take two species and mix them. So who mixed the modern human woman with the Bigfoot? Who did that? Well, it wasn't Bigfoot. It'd have to be somebody else who made, hatched, cloned, or manufactured him.
Okay.
So now we have the 7 so-called races from another world. In my opinion, you're looking at models, not races at all. And the model starts with the little gray, the bigger gray. The little gray's got an IQ of about 80. He makes all kinds of mistakes. That's the reason you wake up and you realize your clothes are on backwards. Why would I put my clothes on backwards to go to bed? Why are they folded at the end of my bed? None of this makes sense to me. And he makes mistakes because he's only got an IQ of about 80 anyway. He was made, hatched, cloned, and manufactured that way for specific purposes. You're the pizza, and he's the pizza delivery guy, cosmically. So that's just the way it is. All these 7, when you look at them, are like the Chevette, the gray alien down at the other end, and the Corvette Stingray, the Nordic at the other end, so to speak. These are just models. That's all.
And with that being said, I believe we have to do a station
Yes,
ID, and then
sorry.
we're going to come back with disclosure. So go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. You're tuned in and you're listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Derrochez and myself, Amelia Pisano, with our amazing and fabulous guest, returning guest, Derrel Sims, the alien hunter. You're listening to us on 107.7 FM or 105.3 FM, live from New Orleans. And we are International Public Radio. We are United Public Radio, but most importantly, we're partially sponsored by Folgers Coffee. Thank you for sponsoring us, Folgers. I just want to, before you go into disclosure, if I could just take you back, because I've been waiting to ask this question since you said myself and others. I know you're not going to tell us who these others are, but can you just answer
Inquiring minds need to know, Derrel.
It's just me here. It's just me here and, 1.99999 million other people. But who gets to know all this information? And that is it going to be disclosed? Is that going to be part of the disclosure?
No.
See, that's not
they
fair.
don't talk about ETs.
No. So
only crafts.
What is disclosure then? What will be disclosed? Are we looking at something like the Kennedy files where they were all blacked out? Are we looking at a recurrence of that with the FBI and the CIA? And what unmentionable governments will they even mention?
Are you lost?
Sorry.
I was.
It's like 10 questions in one shot.
I was asked this question on a panel, and they had another guy there who claimed to be ex-intelligentsia, as I am. And he, I looked at him and I said, be careful what you answer here. The lady asking the questions is very sharp. And there are areas you have not been in, and I know it. And you and I have had this discussion before. So be careful how you answer this. And he stupidly said, oh, disclosure's right around the corner. It's any day now. It's coming. You can see on TV. You can see on the CNN and Fox and all these other channels. Oh, it's incredible. It's coming any day now. Wow. And I know because I'm blah, 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 whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked over at him. I said, I told you not to do that.
I've been doing that for 30 years.
I said, I actually was in the intelligence community, and you can spot these people for a mile.
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't.
Right.
And I said, I know that, and you know that. I said,
Mm-hmm.
now, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Is disclosure going to happen? I said, that depends on your disclosure. That's like asking me, it 1947 and Roswell happens, and then the government says, we found a flying disc. That's disclosure, right? The next morning they say, no, we didn't. It was a weather balloon. Everybody knows it's a weather balloon now, except a few wackos out there who still believe it was a flying saucer.
Right.
The only people that believed Roswell was a flying saucer were the people who found the flying saucer, and a few people like myself who have enough evidence to clearly indicate that it in fact was a UFO, period.
Mm-hmm.
It never was a weather balloon. My point in telling you that is the following. When I went into the Central Intelligence Agency, the first thing I learned as I was learning the tradecraft, as we call it, is the alien functions a lot like the CIA, Mossad, KGB, and so on. Any intelligence operation, they lie, and they lie consistently. The reason you have to do that is because you can't let everybody know what you're doing, obviously. I mean, you really want to tell the Chinese where all your secret missiles and things are hidden? No. You think they're going to tell us? No. So they're going to make a whopper. They do that. That's what they do. It's called a cover story. And I looked at the other guy who claimed to be intelligentsia, and I said, young man, they have been waiting for a presidential inquiry. A congressional come to just moment. 50 years. That's how far behind you are. When that event happens, the big one, they're probably going to use the 50-year-old story on you because it'll work as good as any anyway. It'll straighten your hair. It'll amaze you. It'll be really great. Is it the truth? Well, the truth is just a lie that hasn't been told yet.
Exactly.
I
That's
like
exactly
you,
what I
Derrel.
felt. Yeah.
You just tell it like it is. I like that.
Well, I was there. I'm telling you that I was one of these guys. And just now, to give myself a little cover here, I am red, white, and blue. Volunteered during the Vietnam War. I quit college to join the Vietnam War. So I'm red, white, and blue. I believe in the country. I mean, 100%. I mean, I would not betray this country for any reason at all. However, the subject of UFOs belongs to all of us, not the USA, not China, not Russia, not any. It belongs to all of humanity because it's going to affect you all. And you should have a say in it. Your tax dollars are making it turn into the nightmare that it's becoming, that we often refer to as disclosure. Oh my God, I can hardly wait.
Realistically, disclosure has been ongoing for thousands of years. It's on cave drawings, it's on important paintings, it's in hieroglyphs, it's in mysterious objects that are found throughout the world in archaeological digs. It's pretty well there. There are stories of contact going back thousands of years. The Bible itself talks about it.
If you can interpret the data. The problem is people are asking the wrong questions. For instance, we'll have a little fun. Somebody, a scientist, called me and said, "Oh my God, did you see that on Fox TV that night? Oh my God, they had the UFO. It dropped into the water, came out, and then the pilots were freaking out. And then oh my God, they have these giant triangular craft over the ship. They had it in night vision. It's unbelievable. Derrel, this is fantastic. Oh my God, this is disclosure." I said, "It's called a UFO sighting. It's just the government telling you about it. That's all."
Yeah.
We've all seen them. It's just the government telling you about their sighting. I said, "You're asking the wrong questions." "Well, this is it, isn't it?" I said, "You're asking the wrong questions. Think about it for just a second."
Why are they showing you?
I said, "There's this." I said, the visuals of the triangular craft and it has to do with the optics of what you're looking through, and that's called night vision. "Yeah, but that's incredible." I said, "Listen to me carefully. How would you like to see that thing in color?" Well, it's not in color. I said, "You're not listening again. You're watching TV. You're not listening. What if you could see it in color? What if you knew its temperature? What if you knew where it was going?" I said, "The big question you haven't asked, and it's going to probably take 10 years for anybody to actually ask it on TV and to the intelligence community, is what's that?" And I said, "If I see a bus driving down the street and all the windows are blacked in, I assume somebody's driving it, of course. I hope somebody is. In Houston, maybe nobody is. I don't know. But I hope that somebody's driving that bus." I said, "The real question you need to be asking is, Mr. CIA, Mr. NSA, Mr. Naval Intelligence Operations people that are funding this thing, who's driving the bus?"
Yeah,
good point.
You'll hear everything but total silence, and all of a sudden your TV goes off. That's not the question they want you to ask. They want you to be excited about the funny little lights up there, and it jumped in the water, and it did this, and it flies over here. And
but did it? Or was it just an image?
It absolutely did. Absolutely. It's 100% real. I said, what I'm telling you, sir, is that what you're seeing on TV is pre-digested for you.
I always say you probably get better stuff from the average person off the street with a camera phone. Everybody puts it on YouTube.
We've done pretty well in our investigations. I've been doing this for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that is so old hat to me. I can barely watch it.
But see, that's the point I'm making. You're an independent researcher, independent of the government. You've got better stuff probably than what they've got.
Well, I've been independent of UFO organizations as well. Some of the UFO organizations have been infiltrated. The FBI has admitted long ago they infiltrated the MUFON. They admitted it.
Wow.
What makes you think they stopped?
No, I don't think they ever stopped.
No.
The point is, I told, it was at a UFO conference, and they said, well, the CIA is probably out there spying on us. I said, not likely. And they said, well, what makes you think that? And I said, well, used to, there were a few secrets in the UFO world. I said, anymore, all you got to do is order the video. Everybody's telling everything anyway. So the CIA just has to order the videos. They don't have to go anywhere. You guys are spilling your beans about everything anyway.
That's true.
Like you know anything anyway. I said, they're just checking to see what you do know for real. Other stuff about all that aliens abduct me. They don't care about that stuff. It doesn't mean anything. They're looking for something far different than what you're reporting. And the person that reports that, they're going to be real interested in them. May I give one quick example?
Yes, of course.
A police officer last month came to me and he said, I have dug this object out of my back. I said, okay. He said, he's in the medical field as well. He said, I'm fairly well acquainted with the medical. And I said, and he said, you're obviously the man. May I send this to you? I said, please do. About 2 weeks later, he calls me, it does an email, and he sends me a text. He said, we need to talk immediately. I said, talk about what? So I got him on the phone. He says, yesterday, he said 2 FBI agents in 2 separate cars came to my home. And they said, we're here to talk to you about your alien problem. He said, what problem would that be? He said, of course, I'm wondering, are they reading my emails to you? I said, possibly, but that's not really the big deal. That's not why they're inquiring. You're asking the wrong questions. You're being paranoid. That's what they want. Mm-hmm. I said, what else did they say in the conversation? He said, after we got past the fact that they were uncomfortable talking about the alien, I told them I did have an alien problem and that they've been tampering with me and I wanted it to stop, and I was working to that end. And they said, do you have any physical evidence of that? And he said, I did, but I sent it off to be studied. He said, they looked at me and said, you sent it to Derrel Sims in Houston, didn't you? Well, he said, now, how in the world did they know you and what I did? And he said, man, and my hair was standing on end at that point. And I said, let me take you back to, I was on a big program in 1995, and I had some fun on that program. I dropped a bunch of lingo that we used in the intelligence community on the program that no one knew what I was talking about. And I said, next morning, my webmaster, who was a cryptologist at that time in the 90s, just, and he called me and he cussed me out for everything I was worth. I said, hey, don't talk trash like that to me. You work for me, buddy. And he said, what blankety blank did you do on that program last night? And I said, I just dropped a few buzzwords to see if anybody was listening. Well, they were. We had 250 hits on the website last night. I said, well, that's good. That's good. We got a lot of hits. He said, not from abductees, from the intelligence community. We had 250 hits. He said 3 of those computers were NSA computers in the White House. That's how do you know that? He said, this was my field in the military. I know how to track. He said, they're watching you. They always have been. And I said, well, they're not interested in me. They're interested in who's going to call me. And one man did, who was the best way I could describe him. When he called, he was crying, actually. He said, I'm an abductee. I don't know who to talk to. I can't talk to anybody. He described his position to me. Sir, I have a top secret clearance in the DOD. And I said, your pay grade is way above mine. Please get off the phone right now, as fast as you can. Don't call me back. They're listening. And if they find this out, I said, it's going to be a lot of problems for you, and you're probably going to lose your job and your career. Please get off the phone now. But you're supposed to help everybody. I said, I understand. I love you. God bless you. Get off the phone while you can. And he finally did. I hope they didn't track him, that they missed that. Those are the people they're looking for. They're not interested in Derrel Sims. He's nobody. They're interested in who's contacting me.
They're profiling everyone around him.
Those are the people they're really interested in.
Yeah.
Because if you've got somebody that high in the intelligence area contacting me over alien abductions, and they can never say that in public to anyone. They're hurting, and they from a logistics point of view, they could be compromised. Suppose a Chinese spy, not necessarily a Chinese person, but an American working for the Chinese, came in as an abduction researcher to help that gentleman. Would that be useful or what? Of course it would. It's paired.
Yeah.
Seems like a big game of cat and mouse.
It kind of is. The fact is that for your audience, I will say this: whoever the alien was yesterday, he still is today. So, well, he was the ant people. He still is the ant people. No, he's a high intelligent being from another dimension. No, he's not. He's played you like a cheap fiddle. And so I will give you a little tidbit from my view on the intelligence community and what I think's been going on. I've been tracking the mystery for over 50 years. I have hundreds of cases. That's not even a correct statement. Thousands. Okay, 2,000 cases worldwide. And I will tell you a little bit about certain sections of our military and the intelligence community have been keeping secret monitoring activity of these aliens, whatever are, for a long time. They've done it through a program called MJ-12. They've done it through a number of other programs. The culprits primarily are the Office of Naval Investigation, Central Intelligence Agency, and a myriad of others who also hide this information from each other. It's called compartmentalization. So even if you get caught, quote unquote, you in the Defense Intelligence Agency, you get called in on the carpet by you'll tell them your cover story of what's going on from your perspective. But the other 16 intelligence agencies who may have had more or better information aren't going to tell anything. So this thing, you're being fed a deck of cards in which the dealer, how shall I put this gently, the cosmic government Las Vegas dealer of cards is going to win. And he's going to give you cards that are going to make you think you won. You beat the dealer. You beat the house. oh my gosh, you're so smart.
Mm-hmm.
Offended you, you like it. That's called a cover story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to think, oh my God, Derrel was so wrong. Oh, he just didn't have a clue, did he? We know for a fact they've been spying on the UFO community. They spied on APRO, MUFON, many years ago. In fact, I had one big organization used to UFO Network to find out what we were doing. They think I didn't know, but I did. I knew exactly who they were. I know exactly who belongs to our organization. They, the intelligentsia, aren't going to tell you the whole story. By that, I mean simply, they're not telling any of us the real story. And again, from an intelligence point of view, they can't. I mean, what do you want them to tell you? That we can't protect you, whatever's in our airspace, we have no idea. And if they wanted to attack tomorrow, they could take us all over and eat us, have us for breakfast if they wanted to. You want to hear that? Nobody wants to hear. We're studying the phenomena. We don't understand yet, but we're going to get to the bottom of it. You can be sure of that. We're working on some metamaterial, some special UFO material that we found, and we're really looking at this is amazing stuff. We think we can no, you can't. You can't back engineer Roswell. You still haven't been able to.
Here's a question for you. As if anybody knows, I think you would know. I mean, let's face it, they're collecting information. Do you think there are plants in some of these groups, these UFO research groups, that are there specifically to get this information, nothing more, for, let's just say, intelligence?
Well, of course. That's old hat. Yes.
Yes, I want to say it because nobody asks it.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. When I go to it, when this comes out, people say, oh my God, actually, they told me they're. Here's the problem. Next conference I go to, there's going to be somebody walk up to me and say, I've been checking all the license plate out in the parking lot at the hotel, and there's one of them that's got a government tag on it. They're here. I know they are. I know they're spying on us. They don't have to. All they got to do is order the videos. You guys have got no secrets. Used to, there were people that had secrets. Used to.
So
now they don't have to.
What does an abductee do to protect themselves? You know, they don't know. I mean, okay, they can go to you. You're going to be straight up. What if they don't know about Derrel Sims? I know it's crazy talk, but I'm just putting it out there. What do they do?
Who are these creatures, and what sorcery is this?
I know. But if there are plants out there, they could really be getting themselves set up to give out all this information about what's happened to them.
Yes.
And it's going to go bad for them.
Well, like people, last presentation I did at Roswell, I'll be there again at the Roswell Museum. I'm going to actually show some video. It's going to be on the wall in my display on the wall of implant surgeries. It's going to be really amazing stuff. Anyway, while I was there 2 years ago for the virus, when my last presentation, I gave a presentation on, you're not going to believe this, and you won't believe who didn't show up. It was called Hypnosis. Does it work or not? And what you need to know about your hypnotherapist.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, not one hypnotist showed up. Can you imagine why? Because I was thing. I said, I'm a master hypnotherapist. What does that mean? I said, well, your hypnotherapist gets certified from somebody like me. I'm the certifier. I'm a medical hypnotherapist. I have special certification. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. I'm a forensic hypnotherapist. And I said, on top of that, I said, I'm a hypnotic anesthesia therapist. I take people to surgery with what I do. I said, so my point in that is simply this. I probably know a little bit about hypnosis, what it does and what it doesn't do. I said, hypnosis could be dangerous. Hypnotherapy is not dangerous at all. Hypnotherapy is a situation whereby you're in control so that you're getting the help that you need and so on. hypnosis can be done by anyone and often is done by us individually every day. You go into hypnosis at least 2 times every day, at least 2 times every day without a hypnotist. Now, so I said, let me give you an example so that you'll all understand this. I said, hypnosis is a naturally occurring state by which you can accept a suggestion. If you're in a state of hypnosis, quote unquote, stress, anger, fear, all of these things, like in abductions, you are extremely suggestible. Case in point, Tarzan meets Jane. They fall in love. Oh my God! And they're in the course of their lovemaking, which they're both in hypnosis and lovemaking. And if you're not in hypnosis when you're in lovemaking, you're dissociative, and you probably need some help here because you're totally focused on one another. Hypnosis is focused attention. Always has been. Always will be. Now, all of a sudden, 10 years later, they're making love again, and all of a sudden Tarzan says at the exact wrong moment, "Oh, Margaret." Wait a minute, I thought his wife's name was Jane.
Did you just call me
Jane? Oh boy, you got a problem now. See, she accepted that suggestion of Margaret and in a perfect state. You think she'll ever forget that? Not on your life.
She should have turned back and said, "It's okay, George."
I like you. I like you. I love it. I love it. So my point is that suggestions begin or accepted under strain or arguments, fights. You should never, even the Bible says, you should never let the sun go down on your wrath. Don't go to bed mad. Don't do it. You're opening yourself up for horrible things, horrible thoughts. And so hypnosis could be dangerous in that sense of the word. You can accept bad suggestions unwillingly. And hypnotherapy is not like that at all. You get to, I'm here to smoking, do whatever better I want to do, whatever it is. You're in control of that. There's a reason. There's an outcome. And of course, then I said, the problem with most hypnotists out there is they don't know the difference between memory and recall. Memory and recall is like that screen memory I told about. The great big wolf came in. I was in the score of higher consciousness and I had a wonderful time. And what if that wasn't true? What do you mean? I mean exactly what I said. What if your hypnotist hypnotized your screen memory? Then they hypnotize you a dozen times and it's going to go into what is called a screen dream. And it's just an endless story that never, ever happened. Never.
Yeah, that's a thing. I think a lot of people.
That's why I tell people you better, if you don't know furs, you better know your furrier. If you don't know cars, you better know your car salesman. And if you don't know abductions and really what's going on, you better know your hypnotist. One of the worst things you can do is get hypnotized in the very beginning. Don't do it.
My God.
The first bullet fired at you is going to be the bullet of somebody hypnotized you and made you believe all that stuff.
Yeah, so first off, you never do it alone. Second of all, don't do it.
If you're going to use hypnosis, there are other memory techniques you can use besides hypnosis. Most hypnotists don't know that. If you're good with a hammer, you see everything as a nail. So hypnosis has to be the answer.
Yeah. Maybe not.
Everything you see is a nail. I'm going to tell my husband that next time I'm hammering a screw into plaster. Carpenter's daughter. I hit everything with a hammer.
There you go.
I love that.
There are hypnotists that do the same thing.
Yeah, that's wow.
They think since that's the only skill I said, I've got a half a dozen skills. I said hypnosis is one of the last ones that I would use if I even used it.
Wow. Interesting. So of course we're coming up at the top of the hour. So please tell everybody what you have coming up and how to find you, especially how to find you.
Yes.
I'm easy to find. My site is called for this. Those of you it's thealienhunter.com.
Nice.
Everything there is brand new as of tonight. I waited till the night for you to see it. Everything you're going to see there is brand new, exciting, and stunning. It's nothing like the old site. Nothing. Great stuff. Great stories about disclosure, all kinds of stuff. Wonderful things. And the way you find me is go to the bottom and click on Alien Hunter, and it'll email me automatically. So you can ask any questions you want.
Nice.
I'm going to share that right now.
And you mentioned Roswell Convention. So what do you have coming up for yourself?
Roswell happens on the 2nd through the 4th, 1st to the 4th. Look on the website, Roswell Museum.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful place. It's a wonderful time. I love the Roswell people. They're fabulous. They have a great conference, and they love people. I will see you there, and I'll be at this huge table. It'll be at least 12 foot long in front of my portion of the wall that has my work on it, right there installed in the museum, waiting for you.
Wow, excellent.
That is so
Wish we
cool.
weren't under stinking lockdown.
Well,
I can't even leave the province, let alone the country.
And the wonderful thing about that is I have a workshop every morning that I'll be presenting at. I have major presentations as well, but I have actual workshops where I spend time with each individual there in the workshop, and it's fabulous to do. It's absolutely wonderful.
Wow, sounds really exciting. And I'm just so pleased that you came back yet again and indulged us and our listeners, your wealth of information, and your whole lot of fun.
Well, my wife says I'm like a staph infection. I keep coming back.
Tell her whenever she's tired with you, we'll take you. Don't worry.
Yes, you're always
I'm at home with you, both of you. Wonderful people. Wonderful.
You're
I
such
love
a
your
joy.
questions. You're
Thank
very
you.
smart. Very
Thank
smart.
you.
Thank you. And thank you again for your service. I know I said that last time, but I can't say it enough.
But we just went through Memorial Day. So
I love that because when I came back from Korea and with the Vietnamese troops and everything, we were spit on by our own 1960s type folks. They spit on us and called us baby killers and everything you can imagine. It was the only war that we went to. We were dishonored when we came back.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
So many are affected by that. So many vets.
It's true.
Suffering.
It's true. Doesn't make it right. Oh, Zach Man's got a message for you. Says, Derrel's one of my favorite guests. Always a pleasure to see him. Really glad he joined us. Have a good night, everybody. Have a great weekend. See you all next week.
God bless you all.
Thank you. And if you're new to StreamYard, the only way you can get out, because everybody sits there and goes, how do I get out? There's this little button at the bottom. It's a little red X that says leave studio. Otherwise, you'll be here till tomorrow.
And we'll just keep
like
talking
me.
to you.
Exactly.
We'll just keep talking to you. Yeah.
What's going on? Yeah, just a heads up there. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Wonderful to see you two again.
Thank you.
You as well. And say hi to your wife and tell her thank you.
I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Wow, that was a fantastic interview as always. So, of course, we've come to the end of another awesome segment here on the Outer Realm. Big thank you to Derrel Sims for joining us. Thanks to everybody in the chat room. Thanks to all our listeners. Huge thank you to Folgers Coffee, as always, for sponsoring tonight's show. Big thank you to Joe Montaldo, just because he's just awesome. So remember to go stop by the International Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio YouTube channels and subscribe. Show us some love. Head on over to the Outer Realm on Facebook and Instagram. Promise, always a lot of great content. Again, if you'd like to see a guest, if you'd like to see a topic, if you'd like to be a guest, please email us at theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com. Again, theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com. Tune in next week as we welcome two more amazing guests. Wednesday night, Mr. L.A. Marzulli comes to the show for the first time here on the Outer Realm. Super excited to have him on. Thursday night, we welcome Dr. David Bettenhausen and Carla Bogny-Kidd to the show. And it's going to be topic of discussion, reincarnation.
Oh,
I know. I know.
Oh, wow.
So until then, Amelia and I thank you. Have a fantastic and safe weekend. And for those of you who can't get enough, be sure to come up on Saturday, 6 to 8 Eastern, 5 to 7 Central. Join Joe Montaldo and I on the Gray Zone Uncensored for more topics of disclosures, UFOs, and extraterrestrials. Good night, everyone.